Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on Diplomatic Channel today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. 2024 is over. It's been one of those years that we have seen President Bola Tinubu act the part of number one salesman for the country. This week, Diplomatic Channel reviews the president's trips in 2024 and Nigeria's performance on the international stage. But first, a quick check on those other discussions in diplomatic circles.
Tributes continue to pour in from far and wide to honor former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, who died aged 100. At the White House, the U.S. flag was lowered, marking his death. The American flag was also lowered to half-staff on Capitol Hill. U.S. President Joe Biden leads tributes to Mr. Carter, describing him as an extraordinary leader and a man of principles.
This is a sad day, but it brings back an incredible amount of good memories. Today, America and the world, in my view, lost a remarkable leader. He was a statesman and humanitarian. And Jill and I lost a dear friend. I've been hanging out with Jimmy Carter for over 50 years, it dawned on me. And I had countless conversations over those years. And I always would be proud to say that he used to kid me about it, that I was the first national figure to endorse him in 1976 when he ran for president. There was an overwhelming reason for it, his character. What I find extraordinary about Jimmy Carter, though, is that millions of people all around the world, all over the world, feel they lost a friend as well, even though they never met him. And that's because Jimmy Carter lived a life measured not by words, but by his deeds. Just look at his life, his life's work. He worked to eradicate disease, not just at home, but around the world. He forged peace, advanced civil rights, human rights, promoted free and fair elections around the world. He built housing for the homeless with his own hands. And his compassion and moral clarity lifted people up and changed lives and saved lives all over the globe.
Meanwhile, for President-elect Donald Trump, Americans owe Mr. Carter a debt of gratitude. Mr. Trump noted, the challenges Jimmy faced as president came at a pivotal time for the United States, and he did everything in his power to improve the lives of all Americans. World leaders and U.S. politicians have also been reacting to the news on social media. A statement from U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris partly reads, President Jimmy Carter was guided by a deep and abiding faith in God, in America, and in humanity. Jimmy Carter's life is a testament to the power of service. Former U.S. President George Bush says Mr. Carter was a man of deeply held convictions who was loyal to his family, his community, and his country. Former U.S. President Barack Obama described him as a man of integrity who values respect and compassion. Leaders of the European Union, including French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, all took to social media platform X to send condolences to the family of the former U.S. president. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer sent condolences to Carter's family on social media. Mr. Starmer paid homage to his decades of selfless public service, indicating President Carter redefined the post-presidency with a remarkable commitment to social justice and human rights at home and abroad. And for Mr. Trudeau, his legacy is one of compassion, kindness, empathy, and hard work. The UN chief, Antonio Guterres, says Carter's leadership contributed significantly to international peace and security. African leaders, including Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, paid tributes to Mr. Carter, describing him as a beacon of service to humanity. President Tinubu says Mr. Carter's unwavering commitments to noble pursuits such as peace, democracy, and the eradication of tropical diseases left an indelible mark on the world. For Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, his significant role in achieving the peace agreement between Egypt and Israel will remain etched in the annals of history. Latin American leaders, including Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, Honduran President Xiomara Castro, and Panama's president, Jose Raul Molino, expressed their condolences to Mr. Carter, describing him as a leader who advocated for the promotion of human rights, for peace, and for the eradication of diseases in Africa and Latin America. In the meantime, China offered its deep condolences over Mr. Carter's death, saying the former U.S. president was the driving force behind the establishment of diplomatic ties between both countries more than 40 years ago. As many Americans continue to mourn the death of Jimmy Carter, President Joe Biden has issued a proclamation ordering American flags to be flown at half-mast for 30 days. A day of national mourning will also be observed on January 9th, 2025.
Joining me now is public affairs analyst Oluwaseyi Adeyemo. Thank you for joining us on the program. Your first time with us in person in 4 years. I can't believe time has really gone by.
How time flies.
How time flies.
Feels
indeed.
good to be back. I'm so happy I'm back here.
The last time we had you here was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was, wow. I can't believe it's been 4 years. And how quickly we have adjusted to having virtual interviews
yes.
and then having, in-person interviews. It's also more convenient anyway, sometimes, I guess, for the guest, more for the guest than for the presenter. But thanks for joining me to review 2024.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Nigeria's performance. I want to begin with the latest performance, which is Niger Republic's accusation that Nigeria is working with terrorist groups and foreign powers to destabilize the country. That accusation was made by General Abdurrahmani Tijani. The Nigerian government has debunked this. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has. So has ECOWAS joined in debunking this accusation. Niger accuses Nigeria of conniving with France, and we'll talk about that later. Do you think that he could be making these accusations without some level of evidence or proof?
In my opinion, I believe that he's making it out of sheer fear and anger. The fact that he's no longer with ECOWAS is not something that they're happy with. And the truth of the matter is, I think he's observed that our president has become so friendly with the president of France that that makes them uncomfortable with Nigeria as well. Because the truth of the matter is, it seemed like the agenda for most French-speaking West African countries is that they sort of dissolve their relationship with France. And so when you're seen as then Georgian, because from the look of things, it seemed like Mr. President seemed to be very friendly with the president of France, Macron. So I think my personal opinion is that that is what is informing me, because I know for a fact that the reason why what happened between Nigeria and Niger failed was because most Nigerians were able to clearly point to Mr. President that as a country, we have too many things in common with Niger for us to say to them that we don't want to have an alliance with them. You had situations at the time where Nigerians, people like the Emir of Kano, went, even without informing Mr. President, to Niger to sort of have a Georgia with them before he came back to sort of report.
And this was last year.
Yeah. So for me, I don't think it's possible for Nigeria to do anything to sabotage Niger, because we are going to jointly suffer it. Because most of the things that that binds us together are too much for anything to divide us, such as creating a place where France would fight them from here. I don't think it's something that can happen.
Well, you're right about the commonalities between the two countries. They share borders, and the fact that General Tijani speaks Hausa, fluent Hausa at that, in the interview that he had where he was making those grave accusations, he really wanted Nigerians to get it. He really wanted us to hear his message clearly, about these accusations, and that he was really fully accusing us. But again, pointing to the fact that you said, Niger does not want to, is looking for allies, and that seems to be what is happening, because they broke away from ECOWAS alongside Mali and Burkina Faso. And they're also, I feel that at this time, they're picking and choosing the allies that they have in Africa, because they will soon be fully out of ECOWAS. They're the ones who chose to leave first before ECOWAS said, no, you have to go through protocol, you have to give a 1-year notice, and then, if you're given a formal exit from ECOWAS. But in picking and choosing allies, they seem to be looking for people who don't have any affiliations with France. But having Nigeria on the side will be of great advantage to them. So this accusation again, what is it really about? Are they trying to make an ally out of us, or they're trying to portray us as enemies?
I think they're just trying to clear the gray areas, in my opinion. Like I said, the relationship between Nigeria and presidents of France is definitely not a healthy one at a time like this. Now, you can't force us to choose our friends and tell us who to be friends with. And Nigeria also has got reasons to have their own diplomatic relationship with France. And, so the truth of the matter is, since France over time has become that country that most against French-speaking West African countries have decided to say, look, this relationship is not working. It seemed to be tilted towards France. France is the one that is benefiting the most from this relationship, so we don't want to have anything to do with them. And you know the way it works with families as well. When you see that a member of your family is friends with that member or friends that you're no longer friends with, you seem to want to pick fight with that member of the family that is friendly with your seemingly enemy.
I'm also wondering exactly how Nigeria has positioned herself as a superpower within ECOWAS. I know it might be a bit unfair to examine this under President Tinubu's, tenure as president. He's only been there for a little more than a year, as we said. But really, how has Nigeria positioned herself as a power to be reckoned in ECOWAS? We've seen, some people will argue, oh yes, Nigeria is still, the lead giant of Africa, we're still leading. But under this president, what has he done to portray Nigeria as a force to be reckoned with within the ECOWAS community?
Now, unfortunately or fortunately, Nigeria, the superpower stature of Nigeria was given by God. And some people can describe God as being biased, to have given us all he has given us, on a platter of gold, because truth is not something you can just yank away from us. We have our natural resources. We have great Nigerians occupying. We're very intelligent people. This is a country that is blessed in all facets. And yes, there's a need for us to continue to work on that, to continue to make sure that we sort of grow that. Because, look, all of those things that is happening right now, even our relationship in Niger and these three countries, are a product of the fact that we've not worked sufficiently enough to sort of protect and grow that given stature that God gave us. If, for instance, we had done a good work in growing it, they will not talk to us like they're talking to us right now. The way we negotiate, or they're looking at us in the face, they will not look at us in the face like they're doing right now. And so clearly we've not done enough, as it were. We've not really tried. Let me put it I'm trying to use the diplomatic word.
We haven't sustained.
That is it. I mean, this is diplomatic channel, so I need to use diplomatic words. We've not done a good job in sort of sustaining all of the things God has blessed us with, in my opinion.
Yeah, we probably haven't done a good job in sustaining our leadership of Africa.
Absolutely.
But I remember in times past, there were some decisions were made in ECOWAS. Nigeria was not present at some meetings, and those decisions were made. For example, Morocco wanted to join ECOWAS. Morocco is a North African state, and then they wanted to join ECOWAS. Nigeria was not there at the meeting. I remember the then Minister of Foreign Affairs said, no, Nigeria has no problems with that. And I was like, okay, I guess it's a different times. Times are changing. So President Tinubu has made at least 14 foreign trips outside of the country. Some have criticized him. A lot of shuttle diplomacy, as we like to call it here on Diplomatic Channel. He's told the leaders of these countries were open to investing. He's been to, I would say, the popular countries. He's been to Saudi Arabia. He's been there. He's been there twice now. He's been to France, which is the one that many people also criticized. China, I think, was the one that really caught a lot of people's attention. and then he's also been to neighboring countries as well,
South Africa.
and South Africa, which has also been twice this year, I believe. The first time for President Ramaphosa's inauguration, and then the second time for the binational commission between Nigeria and South Africa. He's telling them we're open to business, come and invest. And this is happening despite the fact that you have big companies leaving Nigeria because of the economic hardship. That economic hardship made worsened by the removal of fuel subsidy in 2023. How do you think we're doing, or how do you think President Tinubu is doing
Okay,
with his salesmanship?
Now, let me, salesmanship, fine. I think that I'll start with that. As a salesman, you must continue to sell your product, whether the marketing people and the rest of the other departments are doing their job or not. As a salesman, you must continue to push out the product. So in the first instance, you cannot travel too much because there are certain travels that you will be summoned to or invited to, and you don't have a choice other than to attend those. Now,
Yeah.
I believe what Nigerians are concerned about is how has that affected us positively? Are we able to take advantage? Because you see, the thing about those foreign travels is you're expected to sign treaties, you're expected to sign binational agreements and all of that. You know, people don't seem to understand that. You just don't go for the sake of going.
Yeah.
Each time you're seated on the table, papers are brought before you, they're negotiating because they expecting you or inviting you, they expect you to come for a reason, and they're ready. They are ready with their own, part of the deal. So they expect you to also
Which
be
are
ready.
taking months to develop anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is what Nigerians are criticizing. And they're saying, are we doing our homework enough to take advantage of this travel? Because at the end of the day, you see, the Yoruba people would always say, and I would like to translate it as much as I can, that it's from the home that you trick your treasure out. In other words, you cannot sell anything that you have not developed, that you have not worked on, that you have not prepare to anyone. So right now, how is the whole world perceiving Nigeria? Are we doing well in our production as a country? Are we doing well in the way we're, managing our economy as a country? Are we doing well in our security? Those are critical factors. And so no matter how loud you shout as per, oh, I'm selling these, oh, this is who Nigeria is and all of that, people will naturally not just buy because they had you shout. They will take time to profile your country, to say, okay, if we go there, are their policies stable? Will we lose if we go into Nigeria to invest, for instance? So when you say, come and invest, that is not the end of the matter. They would naturally, they're international lawyers, they would naturally check your country out and say, okay, how does investment thrive in that country? What is their security situation? What can we do with them and all of that? So whilst we travel and sell Nigeria as a salesman, are we preparing the home front? Are we able to assure them? So when they take a peek into Nigeria, are they able to see things that will attract them?
You're talking about the domestic policy.
That's the only way to do it, because they work together. You cannot differentiate or sort of have them work in silo. You must ensure that what you're doing, internally, and your domestic policy works in tandem with your external or foreign policy. Because whatever you say, they don't need to wait for you. You can Google. You don't necessarily have to say, oh, okay, because he came to tell us that this is gone, that is gone, everything is good and all of that. That would hold water because you came to say it, but then they will check. And if they check, what do they meet? When they check those things, I don't know, are we truly ready for welcoming investors? Those are questions we need to start to ask ourselves.
I have to tell you, they don't even need to check the incident. All they need to do is to ask their embassies that are present.
That's part of checking, So all of those, measures, they're going to ask, they're going to have, that's why I said, they're international lawyers. People are, some people, those are their primary jobs. What they do is they just check investments, environment, is it conducive, is it not conducive? Those are things they do. Yeah.
Which is why it is important to have foreign missions in many of these countries and to have heads of foreign missions and to have ambassadors. Speaking of which, Nigeria has not had ambassadors appointed to anywhere since last year. After President Tinubu came into office, he withdrew all of the ambassadors and they have not been reappointed, and no new ambassadors have been reappointed. But he's making all of these trips without the presence of ambassadors. Is that working to our advantage?
No, definitely not. Nobody, I mean, I can't explain why we don't have ambassadors up till now. And honestly, like you rightly pointed out, that obviously is not working to our advantage. It doesn't make us look good. It doesn't make us look serious. Nobody, no foreign president will want to talk to whoever you have there.
The head of Chancery.
Chant and all of those things. Nobody wants to
talk
talk to those people. They need to have an ambassador, on seat that they can negotiate with. The primary duty of the ambassador is to then go and follow up on those meetings that you have gone to make. So you have gone, you have discussed, you have made agreements. There's a need for somebody who is qualified, sitting there, truly representing Nigeria to follow up on those things. If you don't have an ambassador in place, then I really don't understand. And honestly, I don't think I can give you a good explanation for the reason why Mr. President has not appointed his ambassadors up to now.
Well, maybe the ambassadors, one of the things that they complain about is the fact that, we keep going on, many of these trips, especially the China trip that the president made. It was his first trip to China, a big one. First of all, he attended the FOCAC meeting, and then he had his one-on-one with President Xi Jinping, and then Nigeria and China signed, agreements. And we've always said, interestingly, with China, we seem to be signing agreements behind closed doors. There's not usually much information about what exactly we signed. Some people have attributed the recent currency swap deal with China to the meeting that the president made in September. Do you think that's one of the outcomes of that meeting and a good one for Nigeria?
Like you rightly said, it was done behind closed doors. So whatever was done behind closed door is behind closed door. We're seeing certain indices. We'll just wait and cross our fingers and hope that whatever Mr. President is doing is for the good of Nigeria. Because the truth of the matter is, it is only those things that you bring to the front panel that some of us can analyze and look at and say, okay, this is where we're doing, this is where we're going, and all of that. But when you do it behind closed door, it will remain behind closed doors.
Well, I know that we used to have this currency swap deal with China.
Yes, I mean, Brexit and the rest of them. Look, the truth of the matter is America must understand that they've occupied that seat for too long, and the rest of the world are coming together to say, I think it's time to start looking at options, to start looking at other ways of exchange, other than, benchmarking everything we do, in the world against the dollar. So all of those things naturally would be things that are being discussed right now and, will be discussed going forward, because the truth of the matter is they've occupied that seat for too long.
Yeah, the currency swap deal will be a good one for Nigeria.
It will be, definitely will be.
So do you think you figured out what Nigeria's foreign policy was in 2024? Because we're ending the year already. Do you think you know? Can you define it?
I think if I were to describe it, I think what I perceive is that Mr. President felt there was a need to assure the rest of the world that is ready to show courage, show leadership, show that he's able to take certain policy and be able to stand by it. I think what he's trying to say to them is, you can trust me, engage me, talk to me. I'm one that can sit on this seat, confidently and all of that. And in some funny ways, going by our foreign reserve and all of that, there's some small increase that we've seen. I guess they are beginning to say, okay, it seems like they have somebody seated on that seat that is able to show courage, show leadership. But you see, that's not enough. But if we want to, critically look at what he's been able to do in these 1.5 years, I think what he's trying to show the whole world is, look, I know what I'm doing. I'm confident. I am able to steer the ship. You can trust me. So yeah, that's what is I can read from what he's done so far. But like I said, Nigerians need to also agree with that because the truth is you can't deliver anything externally out there if home is not trusting you, is not believing in what you're doing, and they're saying, okay, yes, Mr. President, we are behind you solidly. We seem to believe in what you're doing, and we are willing to work with you. That is important. So whatever is doing selling outside, it should also sell, a home as well, because we need to buy it first. If you don't sell it here, no matter what you do out there, is not likely to be sustainable, because you need your team to, completely be behind you so that that thing can be properly sold.
Oluwaseyi, that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much for attempting these questions with me.
Thank you.
You're not an international affairs analyst, but you actually came close. I really wanted to get the public's perspective, on Nigeria's foreign policy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
This is where we end the program this week. Thanks for making Diplomatic Channel your top choice and analysis of diplomacy and international relations in 2024. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.